So today I'm happily joined by Tanja, who is a returning, I should say, conversational guest. Luckily, I didn't have to twist her arm too hard to come back. Happily, having spoken with you a couple of times, you suggested you were quite pleased with our previous efforts. So Tanja is a specialist in a number of areas. In some ways, foreign policy. In other ways, the interactions between human beings. But today we are going to address one of Tanja's more, shall we say, openly intriguing specialities, which is essentially the sensuality of human interaction. So, Tanja, welcome back.
Thank you so much for this charming introduction, Zach. Thanks for having me again and again and again.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. The pleasure would be your continuous return, and. Yeah, I mean, when we spoke about how to organize this, I suggested to you that you're more than welcome to come every month, because you also, among the activities of your group, perhaps you would also like to go into, again, a bit of the background behind the group and your general sort of activities and plans before we sort of venture into the topics itself. Mm-hmm. But you also have like a monthly type, is it a blog? Communication, because it's important for you to maintain contact with the people in your group. Would you like to elaborate a bit more on those activities and plans?
Yeah, I would be delighted to do so. Thank you. So the SensualTalk, which I'm organizing since more than 1.5 years now, is a monthly event. I thought monthly is a good choice, good timing. And due to the pandemic, obviously, I wasn't able to organize it anymore with many people. And indeed, as I wanted to stay in touch with the ladies, I started last year in April to send out a newsletter. It's not a blog, it's a newsletter where I'm sharing interesting articles, podcasts, TED Talks, books, magazines, links, whatsoever comes across my eyes and my mind, whatever I find interesting to share. And that's what I'm sending out to the ladies. So indeed, to stay in touch with them. And so we also have some interaction. It's more bilaterally. So, for example, there's a lady who likes what I've sent out. She says, I did that, or I read that, or I went to this shop. So that's amazing, whatever. Yeah, so that is what I did. And then last year in summer, when we were able to meet up again, I organized the Sensual Talks again. And then last year in winter, I had to turn back to the newsletter. Yeah.
Okay, so there is continued interaction between you. It's a two-way communication, even under these difficult circumstances.
It is a two-way communication, but I have to be honest. Like, it's 80% I'm communicating. I'm sharing things if it comes to the newsletter, and then there are reaction up on that. And now what I like very much, and where I'm also very thankful to all the Sensual Talk ladies, is that now slowly I'm getting also like bits and pieces and interesting inputs from the ladies. Like, Tanja, I read this book. Wouldn't you want to share this with the ladies? Or I think this shop is amazing as well. Or look at this petition I found that should be broadcasted more. And that is really nice. And I actually hope for more action.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, you do have plans to obviously grow the group. Are there any particular ambitions that you have, or is it very much an organic plan that you wish to let it grow naturally and see where your fancies take you, essentially?
It's actually a bit of both, Zach, because I have ideas. I would like to reach out to as many women as possible. That was where I started. Now I would actually include everybody who is interested. For example, I started with the SensualTalk as a ladies' talk. So far there has no male participant been with one of the talks. And what I envisage for the future is actually that we could also include guys, like you are now one of the first male members who is getting the newsletter. Lucky you.
Absolutely.
And I could also imagine, for example, to change the SensualTalk, to have Sensual Talks only for ladies, Sensual Talks only for men, Sensual Talks for mixed groups, you know. So this is something I found also really interesting, and this is nothing I had in mind at the beginning. This came naturally because I had talks to many male friends of mine, and they were like, well, this is interesting. This is interesting. I would like to know more about that. I would like to go deeper on this issue. So that's actually quite nice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from our discussions that we had the other day, which, today we won't cover, but there were many elements which you discussed, obviously, from the perspective of being the woman that you are, and fascinating insight for me being the man that I am. And I can only imagine that there would be also an interest in having these mixed groups, where sort of both sides come together and learn about the other. I can only imagine that would be potentially a wonderful experience.
Yes, and as I said also last time, it's because I was mentioning now only male and female. This is so it's open. I would like to open it up for everybody who is interested. The gender is not the important or the selection criteria. There is no selection criteria as long as you are a person, a human being who is interested in talking about these issues of femininity, masculinity, sensuality, sexuality, etc., then you're most welcome to give your input or to just participate and listen. No? Yeah. And a second thing, which I also mentioned last time already, but which is also, if I could, like, I just wanted to say, if I would be in the driver's seat, I am actually in the driver's seat. So what I would love to do, what couldn't happen last year due to the pandemic, is I would like to go also on a geographic scale a bit broader, because so far I've done it only here where I live, in the surrounding of Frankfurt. As I mentioned during our last conversation, that I plan to do a SensualTalk in summer this year in Berlin. I would also love to do one in my hometown. But a part of this, I would also like to do it in other countries. For example, I have the plan, and I hope for the best, to visit my family in Italy this summer. So I could also imagine to do a kind of a pop-up SensualTalk, very spontaneously over there, because I'm quite sure that you also have smaller and bigger differences if it comes to these delicate topics in different countries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as we sort of touched on in our private conversation as well, when I was in Parma, there were these more, as you say, delicate issues arose in conversation with some of my friends at the time. So therefore, it is particularly relevant, I think, in certain generations. And that doesn't necessarily mean younger, because some of the people with whom I had the most open conversations were older than me. So it's not an age-related thing, nor indeed a gender specific thing, as you say earlier. It's a question of how in tune an individual person is with their need for pleasure and their need to experiment with their own levels of sensuality. Which is intriguing in many ways, because we all experience these things differently, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. And I am with you, especially when it comes to the change of one own perspective over the years. Like when I've been in my 20s, for example, I thought I'm like all open. I don't have any barriers in my mind when it comes to sexuality and sensuality. Little did I know back then. That's what I'm saying now in my 40s, So, and for me, there is no end of the journey, like, so I am curious to discover how I would live my or if how I am going to live my sensuality and sexuality in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. I would like to talk with ladies and gentlemen in their 80s and also in their 90s, because we have this in a society, we have this imagination like there is a stop at a certain age. There is like no such thing as sexuality and sensuality, excuse me. But it's not like that. It's changing. It's different. Of course, it's different than with when you are a teenager or when you are a grown up or in your 20s or your 30s. So it's changing because you are changing. You are getting your experiences. And I mean, in general, like, you are living your life, so you are enriching your experiences and you get to know yourself better and better. And this is something which has an impact and an effect on how you would like to be, I don't know, touched, what you would like to allow yourself, what you would like to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And in many ways, also touching on the point that you referred to earlier, the word that you used earlier, which was delicacy, sort of brings us essentially to the first point that we wanted to cover, which is how it would be possible to promote the liberation of these thoughts in younger minds, and where it is possible for schools, I guess, in some ways to educate them, but also the older people. So as you said, in your 20s, perhaps even a bit your later teens, shall we say, to promote experimentalism in these areas, to not be so judgmental, because this also, it also materializes in some ways in bullying. This girl is like this girl is like that, but when a guy does it, he's a hero, he's a hunter, blah blah blah. How can we come away from these sort of prejudices, and at the same time liberate this sense of, so go out, experiment, have fun, basically.
Well, I think first of all that we constrain ourselves to a certain definition of feminine and masculine. So we have stereotypes when it comes to these words or definitions, and I think what is needed is, you already mentioned it, you said school, but I would say in general education and openness, and to leave the dichotomy behind and the heteronormative point of view we are like carrying with us long enough, and to focus more on the diversity. Like there is not such a thing like every woman, every person should be able to define for herself or himself what feminine means. And like I'm a woman, and for sure I have a very different point of view on what is feminine than, I don't know, my neighbor, a lot of friends, because I am me, I have my own experiences. So to allow to be open and not to focus too much on the outside. And I know this is like really, really easy to say. I've been a teenager, you've been there too, we all have been there. And so the one thing you want as a grown-up is to fit in. You don't mostly you don't want to stand out, you want to fit in, specifically when it comes to these issues. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, yeah, I absolutely. We also carry these scars with us as we grow older. But the whole part of experimentalism is also to learn our limits. Yeah, so as in, I am sure there are some things which I simply cannot do. Yeah, as in, I'm not talking about any wacky positioning and so on. But there are some things that I can't feel, I can't experience, because that's just me. But until you push against those borders in a sort of comfortable environment with other people, at least with another partner who is also willing to experiment, we will never know these things. So it's always good to learn about ourselves. There's nothing wrong with failing, in a comfortable situation.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I just if I may add, I just had a thought, because we had once a discussion in one of the Sensual Talks, which just came up to my mind, is there was a lady who talked about a teenager girl in her premises, let's put it that way, a 15, 16, 17-year-old young lady. I don't exactly recall the age, but it's not too important. And this Sensual Talk lady mentioned that for her, for example, a blowjob is something very, very intimate. She would not do that in a one-night stand. That is something she's holding for a more deeper relationship. That's the way she grew up. And she was, very, not shocked, but she was really, you could see that it made her mind like really working on it and chewing on it, when she understood from this young girl that in the class, in the school of this teenager, giving a blowjob is the thing to do. Like it decides if you are in or out. So even if you, before having intercourse, it's like a thing, one should have done that.
Like an initiation.
As a ritual, as an initiation. I don't know, I would translate it in, Not that we all have been angels back in time, but like, I don't know, the first kiss or I don't know. And it was really, we had a really interesting discussion about, because this blowjob is like, it is what we put on it. Like now we are talking about this practice. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I hope I'm not offending anybody that I'm like going out openly. So I found this really, really interesting. So on the one hand side, you have a woman, for her, it's like really important to keep this, and who is not willing to share this with whoever comes along. And then you have on the other hand, the point of view that this is something you just do. It's like no big deal. You know?
I think what's probably interesting is from my observations, because I don't know either situation, but I don't think there's a right or wrong in either way. It's a question of people, I mean, sexuality and sensuality and the activities which are there, sort of born from these two, factors. It's an individual thing. It's people should feel comfortable in any way that they express themselves through these, sensations. And if one is to say that, no, I do not want to perform that act with somebody I'm not intimate with, that's fine. Of course, that's fine, because nobody should be forced through any kind of expectation into doing anything. And on the other hand, if somebody is sort of freely, as it were, experimenting with this thing, they shouldn't also be judged for that.
Yeah, and you just choose a word I like very much, which I had in my mind, is like, as long as it's not about judging, because I think we are judging anyway too much as human beings, and it is about consent. Is that the right word? Yeah, no?
Yes.
Consent and free will. And the thing here is, Zach, is, in my opinion, also, I can do something voluntarily and freely, and I can believe I'm doing something voluntarily and freely. And if we see, for example, in the media, in advertisements, in films, certain ways of behaving, certain practices, sexual practices, then sometimes what I observed is that people get the idea this is how it has to be. And if you are young and you don't have too much experience, then you get that's your orientation. This is what I have to do to be a woman. This is what I have to do to be a man. This is the kind of sex. This is the kind of sensuality I have to, and I'm choosing this word on purpose, I have to, and now I forgot.
Partake in, yeah. You have to partake in.
No, that's not the word. I have to perform.
Okay.
That is the word that I have to perform, to be, in order to be,
I mean, but in your opinion, because you two words there that you reference, and I think in some ways they are contradictory. So on the one hand, you said voluntarily, but then on the other hand, the expectation is that somebody has to do something. And if you feel peer pressure into performing a certain act, how true is it for you, in your opinion, do you think, to say that was a voluntary action? If you feel that you had to do it, is it then not voluntary?
No, and that is why I'm saying that actually that's what I try to say is like the distinction between what is my will what I'm doing because, like, due to pressure, due to traditions, due to culture, due to religion, due to the norms I'm living up to, due to the conditioning system I'm living in, the beliefs, all of it, due to gender-based attributions.
Yeah, it's
and
fascinating.
In this example, what I found quite interesting was that it was really meant as a, like, this lady who participated in the SensualTalk, giving this sharing this observation she had. Like, she explained that what she understood was, like, that with amongst this girl, it was really, like you said before, an initiation process. It was really like to become a woman. Yeah, this is what you do. So now let me be very frank here. What has sucking a dick to do with becoming a woman? And I know this is judgmental, because it is such a reduction. And this is another thing. Like, if I talk diversity, then this is, or if I would like to promote diversity, then, and if I say it should be free, then it should be open. There is so much out there to see and to experience, but this constraining, and you don't have this only with women, you have this also with men. This constraints, and to liberate oneself from these ideas. And again, I know it's easy to talk, and it's so much more difficult to live up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. You strike so many notes in the things that you say, and they each individual note requires analysis from a very personal basis. Not for me necessarily to analyze any further, because what you've said is very clear. But each individual who listens to this and listens to your words, that person should analyze your thoughts and what you say, and they should thereafter give those sentiments their own valuation from their own perspective for themselves, as opposed to using it as a means of judging any other person.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's fascinating, and also because recently when doing a workshop on anti-discrimination, the term judgment came up quite importantly. Why do we judge people? We judge all the time. We judge people we see on the S-Bahn or the U-Bahn or the bus. We judge people we see in the street. This person is too big. Why are they eating like that? This person is too thin. Why doesn't this person eat more? Lots of different things that pass through our minds. We don't voice them, but we think them, and these are uncontrolled judgments. How can we overcome these things? It's crazy.
Yeah, they are uncontrolled, and they are subconscious. Like, if you want to control it, you have to be aware of what you're thinking and how you have been influenced. So even if one wouldn't see a connection, but I would like to bring in the word of mindfulness in here. Like knowing, like getting to know yourself better and better, and what you need, what you want. And maybe I just sense now that I would like to, because I said it out quite sharp, what I said before. What would have a blowjob to do with being a woman? This is nothing against the blowjob. Yeah. But there is a part to this story which really made me upset and also angry. I'm trying to find the right words, because one could of course also say like if the girls like it, let them do that. But the thing I'm questioning is how do they get the idea? You know, where does that come from? They are not waking up in the morning and having this idea, or they are not sitting together in the evening chit-chatting and then this comes up. You know what I mean? This is influenced by the outside world. And
or maybe the inside world, if they have older siblings, for example, or perhaps parents who openly talk about these things too. I don't know.
Yeah, could be. As long as I said, as long as whatever one does is consensual,
yes,
voluntarily and free, that's fine with me, and nobody get hurt, then everybody should do whatever he or she wants to do. Maybe I'm getting here also a bit protective when I think about young girls. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
because I have to admit, if I come from my point of view, I wouldn't know, like me, the 16-year-old Tanja wouldn't have had the capacity, the knowledge, the experience, maybe wouldn't even have dared to question this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we also have to realize that, you know, when we grow up as children, we don't really see the wider world. We are, you know, I'm sure children of, you know, from the age of 13 up are very knowledgeable. They understand many, many things, sometimes much more than adults, you know, give them credit for. But the world essentially breaks down to, you know, the mass that is the community. Now, whether that community is the neighborhood or that community is then the school, it's controllable in that it probably covers no more than, you know, 100 to 200 people. And within those communities, there are many different influences and factors. Yeah, and everybody is aware of everybody else. And it is within those, you know, these bubbles, these cliques, these groups, you know, that reputations are made, that decisions are made, which perhaps, you know, are further reflected down the line in the way people judge, you know, certain kinds of actions. And, you know, I think the point that we're trying to make is that, you know, on the one hand, you know, these young people, boys, girls, and any other gender that they, you know, that they consider themselves to be, should be free in deciding what is right for them. And at the same time, there shouldn't necessarily be a taboo with regards to openly talking about these issues if they wish to analyze it before jumping into doing it.
And that is actually something, when we had that talk in one of the former Sensual Talks, I was actually thinking, like, I would love so much to go to a school and to hear for myself, you know, like, what the young people are like living, how it is today, and I mean, this is the this is actually the reason why I'm organizing the Sensual Talks, to get in touch and to learn and to discover. No, because of course the minors today are different than once upon a time. But I also believe in, I think if it's an adult, I'm totally fine with adults doing whatever they want, as nobody gets harmed. But with minors, sometimes I think it's for me it's difficult. But maybe also because I don't have the contact to that age group. Yeah. And I mean, coming back to one of your very first questions, it's not only about talking to different genders, it's not only about talking to different nationalities or religious backgrounds, it's also to talk with different age clusters, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, this also brings into, sort of sharp focus, the sort of second part that we wanted to talk about, which is essentially the promotion of freedom on a social scale. Because, we're talking about age clusters. And so therefore, some experiences we take with us into later life, whether they were good or bad. We'd hope that they were more positive, but these things happen as well. Negative experiences also help to shape our morality, as it were, growing older. But as we emerge from these school groups and we sort of become more involved into the wider community, so therefore the beliefs of society as a whole, start to sort of germinate in our minds. How do you think it's possible to promote the freedom of sensuality on a social level, because social media is so hateful, judgmental, aggressive? It's hard, is it not, to cultivate a more open society in these areas, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a question I'm asking myself also quite a lot, because there are so many bits and pieces to it.
I mean, I don't want to throw you in at the deep end. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not an easy topic, but yeah, I mean, how about the way that you're doing it? Your open discussion method. Does this help to draw people out? Does it bring a sense of comfort in the topic, for example?
Yeah, for example, maybe something I mentioned also in the last discussion we had is that sensuality, at least in my point of view, doesn't always pair with sexuality. I can, like, for me, sensual, what is sensual? Good food is sensual. A massage is sensual. Dancing is sensual. To me personal, sports is sensual. Watching and listening to the ocean is sensual. So here again, like to try to separate sensuality from sexuality, and this is why I'm always mentioning it separately, and also to observe, okay, what is meant to be sensual according to the media, etc., and what is sensual to me. There are people who they get crazy when they get a foot massage, for example, when their feet are being touched, and that's like amazing. Then you have others, they're like, you don't even watch at my feet, otherwise I'll punch you. Stay
I'll
away.
kick you with it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is also like a very personal thing. Like, I also like smells. Like, what happens to me quite often is if I walk along the street and somebody passes along, be it woman or man, it doesn't matter really, and I like the smell or the perfume or the mixture of all, then I stop, because it hits me so strong. I stop and I just enjoy the smell, how you say, Hauch.
Oh, the fragrance, is it?
Is it the fragrance? No, the breath. No, you wouldn't say that. Yeah. Well, the fragrance, maybe, yeah, whatever. But at least I think I was able to make it clear what I meant. So in others, they use other senses, then to to look also at the word. Sensuality is not focused only on sex, but there is a word and it's senses. We have many senses as human beings, and it's nice to discover all of them, and also in different combinations. We use our eyes very often. Like if one is not blind, you use your eyes, and then if you hide your eyes, then you have totally different feeling. Or if you use your ear only, if you focus on your different senses. So this I found quite interesting.
Yeah, there's also the mind's eye, isn't there? This capacity to imagine certain things, and in many ways it is this connection of imagination and sensitivity which heightens a person's experiences. This is why I believe a lot of people say, I will only do certain things with a person I'm intimate with. It's because the intimacy of feeling emphasizes the physical experience as well in many cases, I imagine.
Yeah, if you can just fall into it, if you are, the word is flow. I really think our senses help us to enter into a stage of a flow, which can be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, this is also why people want to be, at the moment with the corona restrictions, people don't have the opportunity of going to concerts or going to nightclubs and dancing. The sense of being within the crowd. I'm not a dancer, so I don't have these sensations. But when I used to do this sort of the Armenian circle dance, and this sense of flowing, as you say, within a group, the experience is accentuated by the participation of so many other people, and you can see and feel the pleasure. It sort of permeates the crowd.
Connection.
Yeah,
exactly. And this is a certain kind of connection, and this is also what our senses allow us to connect. If it comes to dancing, as you choose this example, it's great to dance on our own. But it's also great, and it's a totally different experience, at least from my point of view, if you do partner dance, or if you do a group dance, like you mentioned the Armenian kind of dancing, which I also know from the Balkans. So it's always dance, but it's different ways, and it will stimulate different facets of a person, which is great. And it gives you different experiences. It's always dance, but if you dance alone amongst a crowd in a club, or if you dance with a guy or a lady, or if you dance with a whole group, it's different. And there is no like every summer you have a kind of group dance which is like hitting the Billboard charts,
Yeah.
So there's a reason why. And dances, they have been their ritual dances. We lost a lot of the dance culture, in my opinion. But yeah, this is definitely also a way to connect and to live different senses.
Yeah. And just a silly question which comes to mind, but for example, when people get together and they drink socially, do you believe alcohol sort of dulls the senses? Up to a certain point, of course, or beyond even.
Dulls, you mean minors them?
It reduces your ability to sense what is happening about you, or your body. You can't actually feel as well if you are under.
I'm not too sure. I think yes. I think yes, and I think no. I like with me, for example, it's definitely that way. This is why when I dance, I don't drink. specifically when I go dancing, like on a social dance where you have partner dance, I don't drink. If I go to a club, then I would have a drink. But you have also the other thing. You have people who loosen up in a positive way if they have a drink or two. I'm not talking about getting totally wasted, but so me personally, I wouldn't generalize because I've seen both. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering how life is going to be once the restrictions are removed. And I have a feeling, I mean, I don't know how other cities act, but I just have a feeling that Berlin's going to be, if it's in the summer, it's going to be like a 2 week festival of
Spring
drinking.
break.
Yeah, it's people are going to be going crazy in the streets. There's going to be, I think a lot of these music clubs are going to just put their speakers outside and have people dance in the squares. I think it's going to be absolute chaos. And I'm wondering, how much lovemaking will take place as a result, because when people are, from my experience, men under the influence of alcohol, other particular activities become very difficult.
Okay. Now you touch different topics. like in what you just said, you like I could say like, okay, should I say something to this or to this? So when we talk it's not post COVID, not going to be any post COVID soon. But if we talk about the summer, I really do hope that we get a bit back of what you just mentioned, like to meet and catch up. And I don't know, of course it can be that people are getting crazy, but actually I think everybody would be just so happy. I can also here, I can imagine that we're going to see scenes which are incredible, and I can imagine to see just a lot of happy people. I mean, I went like this Sunday we had amazing weather, like 28 degrees, at least here in the region around Frankfurt. And I went for a walk at the Main, in the River Main, and it was amazing. It was amazing how many people were out there, and they were all like peaceful and together and happy. Everybody was smiling, and they were all the different kinds of younger, older, everything. And me personally, I enjoyed that so much. I was like, oh, I'm not alone in the city. Yeah. A part of my friends, and it was great. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's this sense of positivity essentially, which I'd love to bring forward, and if it were possible to bottle that kind of euphoria, it would be fantastic. But we'll see. I mean, there are every town has its own character, and I suppose we'll celebrate the easing of restrictions in its own way. I have one other question for you, Tanja, because we are approaching that sort of the ominous hour mark where everybody loses their ability to focus. Yeah, exactly. Last orders at the bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you've previously commented about your, the kind of list of things that you have that you really want to do. Some people refer to that as a bucket list, and you've told me that you go on tour with your motorbike. You're a real sort of biker babe, I think was the word that you used. Can you tell us a bit about this side of things? Because this is really, it tells a lot of people about the kind of person that you are, and it's also inspirational because you push boundaries in many ways.
Okay, when it comes to the biking, is like I had two dreams. I just go a bit back, but just quickly. Like when I was a teenager, I had two big dreams. The one was I was amazed and in love with dancing, and I have been very much interested in motorcycles, in Harley Davidsons, in shoppers since I've been 14, 15. Don't ask me why. I don't have a clue. I have books. I still have them, which I bought back then. For my 18th birthday, somebody, like a friend of mine, made me a gift, and a small Harley Davidson, and a small original Harley Davidson, which you could put on a shelf. I still have it. So I did my driver license with 18 for the motorcycle, and then I gathered the money to buy one. Of course, not a Harley Davidson, because that was out of reach back then, money wise. And there was the Honda Shadow, is a shopper type, which back then was on the market, which very much goes in the direction, when it comes from the outside, from the style into this. Yeah, it's a shopper, and I loved it. So, at a certain point after I finished high school, I was like, okay, I have the money, which I earned doing. I worked in the gastronomy. How the hell do you say that?
You worked as a waitress?
As a waitress, as a bartender, and as a waitress, exactly. Yeah. So I had the money, and I wanted to buy the shopper. I didn't, because it was like, okay, or the shopper, or I go for 6 months to Australia and New Zealand. I choose the latter, because I said I can buy the motorcycle always. And to cut a long story short, I did that a month ago. It took me nearly 3 decades because I was roaming around so much in different countries, and I had just other things to do. But now I have a motorcycle. I have my bike. Yes, and I do say, because there are a lot of people that say, like, are you now in German? Because I don't even know if you say that in English. Rocker Braut. Rocker chick, but that is, I don't. There's no resonance. It doesn't resonate to me, the word. So I say biker babe. Yes, I'm a biker babe, from the bottom of my heart. I always been, and now I actually can ride. Yes, it's not only about riding. I also like to learn how to work on it. And actually, this Sunday, and I'm glad that you mentioned this topic without us agreeing upon it. I was working on my bike. I had a friend of mine who showed me how to tension the chain of the bike, and how to change the brake pads. Yeah, so I did that on my own. I didn't want anybody to do it for me. I want somebody next to me to show me how I do that. That is my bike. I want to do it. And I want to ride many, many, many kilometers. And actually, one thing I've been thinking about doing with a friend of mine was to do a trip to Italy by bike, to northern Italy. But again, due to the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. So now the plan is to come to Berlin. Surprise, surprise. The beginning of July by bike. Yes. And I do many trips here in this area. But actually, I'm waiting for better weather. Better weather.
That sounded quite funny. It was better weather.
Yeah, I'm so English native.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just waiting for you to put the Barbie on, and then it would have been away. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is also a part of me. I really enjoy riding a bike, and like I don't know why. But I don't have to know why. I just know that I resonate a lot with it. And luckily, I got to know many very interesting, very different kinds of people during the last 2 years who are also driving bicycles. And I always knew people with bikes, because it's just something I see. When I see a nice bike, I start chit-chatting with the owner.
You gravitate towards it.
Yes, I gravitate. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's also great that you say, yeah, I don't know why, I don't have to know why. I think that's such an important element to this story because, we spend too much time analyzing things.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it is just what don't analyze, just do it. I don't want to
Yeah.
steal the advertising from Nike, but essentially they're right, aren't they? Just do it.
Yes, and I can tell you like that was like the one of the most important act to free myself was to stop. Like I'm an analyst. I use my head a lot and I love it. Like working with it and putting things together and analyzing and researching and all of this, understanding, grasp things until the last bit. Yeah. But we are not our brains. I'm not my brain. My brain is a part of me, but my gut feeling is also a part of me. And I gravitated away from I have to understand everything with my mind more towards if my gut feeling is like that, then it's like that. And I don't have to extra validate it with my brain in the sense of I have to understand on the level of my ratio why it is. But this was quite a process for me, I have to admit.
Yeah, to be honest, it also seems, I mean, I'm interpreting here, and I could be completely correct, but it seems as though it's a part of the process of self-liberation that perhaps you've been through. Maybe this was something which also came to you through your embracing of mindfulness. But listening to you say these things, I really start to, develop ideas for one of our next upcoming podcasts because,
Cool.
Yeah, just to say the word instinct. And
Yeah.
then, I think we can talk so much of different topics which just stem from, the sentiment instinct. Maybe we should sometimes rely on it more, as you say, gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have an amazing opener for our third podcast.
Third,
Mindfulness,
fourth, maybe fifth.
and
Yeah.
all of that.
So many. Yeah, Tanja, it's great because I mean there are so many things that we could talk about, and there are also other topics which aren't necessarily related to the sensuality and sexuality topics, but
Absolutely.
I would always love for that to be a little element at least of each podcast that we do because it helps to further enhance this moving away from the taboo. Because it's, as you mentioned with regards to what you said before about the blowjob, that is a normal act for consenting adults or people of a certain age. There's nothing wrong with the action. There's nothing wrong with talking about it either.
Yeah.
And so normalizing these things will also help people to understand that, these things are not inherently wrong. They should be free to talk about them, and free to perform anything that they are comfortable with. And I think that's the sort of overriding message I think that perhaps we could, release, as it were, from this talk. Yes, please. I wanted to give you the last thoughts. So please.
I just no, it's just I'm sorry. I know we are about to conclude, but I just now came into my mind what I didn't say before when we were talking about that, me being so upset. So my question actually at this talk was, why is giving a blowjob making a girl a woman, whether spoiling from a guy spoiling a boy spoiling a girl orally is not making him a man. I was missing this part of the puzzle. This is important for me to say now, because that is the reason why I'm upset. Why it's not a one-way street.
Well, why it is a one-way street? You mean that? Why is it that for a woman to perform oral sex, it's a part of her becoming a woman, and yet for a man to do so is not so prominently considered? Okay.
Exactly. So and this is why I said I would actually like it was interesting to hear this, because this topic about oral sex practices wasn't a topic when I was younger, we had other topics, but this is something I would actually like to talk about also with 16, 17-year-old girls and boys, like maybe it is like this, but I don't know, because the example I heard was from the point of view of the girls. But I have to admit, observing and watching the society, I don't think that the same counts for the guys. So, and this is the thing, but this is an assumption. But this is something I like. If it's like this, so then it should also be the other way around. Or at least one could play with the thought, coming back to free.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't see any conversation which relates to pleasure limiting itself in any way. So as in, if pleasure can be one way, it can be another way, it can be many ways, it should definitely be reciprocal. Yes. Because this is the whole point of, you can't have sex, okay, you can have sex on your own, but that's not necessarily the interactive sex that we are referring to. And, why would somebody want to monopolize, orgasm? What is the benefit in that? If you cannot share that experience, then, we've missed out.
Yeah. So many topics to still talk about.
Tanja, what's going on? I'm running out of paper here. I mean,
Let's have mercy with,
yeah,
with
absolutely.
your guests.
My word.
And stop now, and then we have so many nice topics to talk during the next podcast.
Absolutely. Tanja, it remains for me to say thank you very much again. It's just an insightful, adventurous conversation. Thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for your time and for your nice questions. It was fun. I enjoyed the talk.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.